Some of you know that I moved to Iowa in April. As I've become familiar with my new home, I've been fascinated with the pristine serenity and simplicity of this place. This spirit of simplicity is reflected in the most minute details, even the local art. I particularly enjoyed a little sculpture on a corner in downtown Ames. It's a sculpture of a young boy with wings strapped to his arms, Icarus. Perhaps you know the legend of Icarus. He has the wings attached with wax. He flies too close to the sun. The wax melts and he falls into the sea, dying. But there's more to the story, and that part isn't reflected in the beautiful, simple sculpture. Icarus' father, Daedalus, is the personification of skill in mechanical arts. He can create and build anything. It was Daedalus who built the labyrinth for Minos, king of Crete. Daedalus loses the favor of the king and is imprisoned in the labyrinth itself. He is imprisoned in his own creation. Daedalus plots to escape. Daedalus makes wings for himself and his son. Father and son have different agendas for this new technology. Daedalus wants to escape from King Minos, but Icarus wants to be like the gods. Daedalus warns Icarus not to fly too low or too high. It's obvious from the story that Daedalus loves this child. He kisses him goodbye. He gives all the right warnings, but he flies off, leaving his son far behind. Icarus, as we all know from the story, flies too close to the sun, melting the wax of his wings. He plunges to the sea. Daedalus can't hear Icarus' cries for help. He only sees the feathers fluttering on the sea after his son is dead. The story of Daedalus and Icarus is our story. We are imprisoned in our own devices. We think technology can fix everything, but it is our children that will suffer. Daedalus and Icarus offer a cautionary, dare I say it, a precautionary tale. Next week we move to the site for the new compound in a small town called Gravity. Ironic because Gravity was ultimately Icarus' undoing, or at least his arrogant attempt to overcome gravity. We will also be welcoming several new recruits to join us in our work. I am feeling as optimistic as ever in the progress of our collective endeavor. I will write of our progress with the subjects as soon as I have a free minute to collect my thoughts. So much work. So much good work to do. From the union of power and money. From the union of power and secrecy. From the union of government and science. From the union of government and art. From the union of science and money. From the union of ambition and ignorance. From the union of genius and war. From the union of outer space and inner vacuity, the mad farmer walks quietly away. There is only one of him, but he goes. He returns to the small country he calls home, his own nation small enough to walk across. He goes shadowy into the local woods and brightly into the local meadows and croplands. He goes to the care of neighbors. He goes into the care of neighbors. He goes to the potluck supper, a dish from each house for the hunger of every house. He goes into the quiet of early mornings, of days when he is not going anywhere, calling his neighbors together into the sanctity of their lives, separate and together, in the one life of their commonwealth and home, in their own nation small enough for a story or song to travel across in an hour. He cries, he cries. Come all ye conservatives and liberals who want to conserve the good things and be free. Come away from the merchants of big answers whose hands are meddled with power. From the union of anywhere and everywhere by the purchase of everything from everybody at the lowest price and the sale of anything to anybody at the highest price. From the union of work and debt, work and despair, from the wage slavery of the helplessly well employed, from the union of self-gratification and self-annihilation, secede into care for one another and for the good gifts of heaven and earth. Come into the life of the body, the one body granted to you in all the history of time. Come into the body's economy, its daily work and its replenishment at mealtimes and at night. Come into the body's thanksgiving when it knows it acknowledges itself a living soul. Coming to the dance of the community, joined in a circle, hand in hand, the dance of the eternal love of women and men for one another, and of neighbors and friends for one another. Always disappearing, always returning, calling his neighbors to return, to think again of the care of flocks and herds, of gardens and fields, of woodlots and forests and the uncut groves, calling them separately and together, calling and calling. He goes forever towards the long restful evening and the croak of the night heron over the river at dark. Amen.